it's a good time to start because right now, since Apple led the way, all the other companies are taking interest. You'll see. Yeah, one way to help them is to make some sort of VR space where they can get used to seeing the blood, seeing organs, and all this kind of stuff, so that before you're going to be rejected more times than you would like. Investor thinks, I'm going to give you $1 million because I'm going to make $10 million. Right? Honestly, bro, most people have the same idea, or your idea is actually pretty crap. Just start, just screw up. It does not matter. Don't hold yourself too high. You're not going to have the final polished product yet because there's nothing else you can do. You have to live your life. So do it. Hi, everyone. My name is Farhan. Welcome to Founders Academy. This is the second Q&A session, and we have some special guests this time. Shahbaz is joining us, as well as I've seen a few others pinging me. We have a good amount of questions today, as well as some questions that we didn't get to address last week. We'll see how many we can get through. And if there's extra that we can't, I'll do a separate session where I record myself and ask those questions. Since Shahbaz, you're on here, do you mind asking your question live, and then I'll answer it live as well? Yeah. So what I would suggest then is this: you're still young enough to take a little bit more of a risk. I would say that if you're going to build a product for the metaverse and for the AR, augmented reality, or like say AR verse or the VR verse, if you want to call
Yes.
it is a good time to start because right now, since Apple led the way, all the other companies are taking interest. You'll see how Zuckerberg right now shifted his entire business plan from like building to promoting the metaverse to now like kind of comparing it to Apple and opening up the metaverse for all the different kind of headsets. I don't know if you've seen like they're making that Meta OS available to all of the headsets now, right? So now is the time to start thinking about what product you're going to build that can solve a very specific problem in the metaverse and build towards that so that you get support from them for free. That's something that you can get and you can latch onto very easily. So I would say that right now is a great time to, again, think about a very specific problem you want to solve in the VR space and start working with, I would say even better than Apple would be Meta, because they want to build up their library of content and start working on it there. And I would not specifically focus on AR versus VR versus something. I'd focus on a problem you want to solve. And then all the headsets typically have functionality for AR, VR because they're kind of mixed reality headsets, right? And if you have more specific science based ones, you might want to focus on Apple. But if you have more generic use case, I would say Meta is good. So that's kind of my 2 cents on whether you should do a product versus a client. I would say the client, you did one project really good, you got the experience and all that, but you'll notice that you don't have as much kind of your own autonomy for what you want to do, as well as you probably will learn a lot more trying to build something that's purpose driven and a good problem to solve. So let me give you some examples to help you, so I don't just say, hey, build something for some problems. Let me share some really cool, interesting concepts that I've seen, and some that I've thought of for the metaverse. So, for example, one of them that I saw that was really nice was this timer app for when you're cooking. So you wear the headset, and then you put like a timer on your pot, you put a timer on your oven, and then you were like chopping something. So like it's a recipe book that follows you while you're doing the recipe. It tells you that you've cut the right vegetables, you've cut enough of the, you put enough of the ingredients. Then say you start to boil the pot of like food. It tells you, okay, you boil the water for 10 minutes, or there's pasta in there 10 minutes, go and take a look at it, right? And it locks the timers, it locks all of the instructions in space so you can learn and quickly be able to cook that food, right? So it's a cool, interesting concept for like training you how to cook, or a recipe book for yourself. So that's one kind of example. I would even go even more purpose driven. For example, let's just say you are teaching anatomy to students, or I would say like even more specific than that. Say you want to work with, say, I don't know if you guys know how long it takes for doctors to be able to get used to the blood, seeing blood, right? And so
Yes.
one way
That,
to, yeah, one way to help them is to make some sort of VR space where they can get used to seeing the blood, seeing organs, and all this kind of stuff, so that before they actually go see real life cadavers, they have that one step in between that they can get used to it, right? So you can build an application for universities so that they can train their doctors and nurses to get more used to um, seeing that kind of stuff. So you can see it's very purpose driven, very specific. There's money there because they want to have their students get used to it faster, and they don't have cadavers, unlimited cadavers to practice on, right? So being able to see it and get used to that is going to be very helpful for them. All right. Harsh Fardan, did I say it right? Did I say your name correctly this time?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Do you what question do you have today? That's a great question. I'm going to start off by saying that you're going to be rejected more times than you would like. So your
That is
past rate,
okay.
yeah, yeah,
That
you're
is
gonna,
okay.
and
That's
you might
okay.
be doing better than you expect, by the way. Like,
Okay.
so like late on the text, send me like how many you reach out to and how many people actually answered and responded to you. If it's more than 1 or 2%, then you're doing better than normal. Just saying. So like getting a, it's very hard to build that. It takes a long time, especially at the beginning. Even if you have 17 of years of experience, even if you have a lot of experience, what you'll find is that again, a cold reach out does not work so well with them. So here's some advice for
Right.
you that I've done that has worked a lot better for me. Number one, as you know, is a warm reach out where you get referral somehow. You know someone there that can refer you, or you build up the reputation over time, or someone can introduce you. That's plain and simple, right? And or one way to do that is to build a rapport with them by going to these kind of startup mixers or kind of events, right? So, for example, just a
Right.
couple of weekends ago, I have direct connections now to a lot of VCs because I went to a startup kind of networking event. But
Okay.
in those events, you need to wow them, and the way that you wow them is you cannot look like you're desperate, and you cannot feel.
Yeah.
You have to make them want you. How do you
Right.
do that? When you have a conversation, you need to be like, "Hey, I'm working on the next big thing. I'm really excited about it. I don't need your money right now. I'm just trying to connect. I want to find the right partners because I need the right people to work with me to change the world. And maybe we work together, I don't know, but I want to find the right people to build it with because I know I'm going to change the world. And whoever wants to join me, they need to they need to be thinking big like that too. These investors like to hear that because
Yeah.
everyone's chasing them. Everyone's kind of like begging them, give me money, give me money. That's one thing. So you're thinking like them. The next is, do you think how an investor thinks? Don't think how an engineer thinks. How does an investor think? Investor thinks, I'm going to give you $1 million because I'm going to make $10 million, right? They
Right.
don't, honestly,
Right.
they don't care about the idea. Yeah.
This
That's a
program.
plan. Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a plan. Over
yeah.
time, we're going to bring them on and we'll have them invited. Uh, and we already
Right.
have some Google and Apple engineers there that do look at investing. We have investors there already, so they're
Right.
there, but they're waiting for people to
Right.
post. They're not going to expose themselves
Right.
because they don't want people to be annoying them with DMs, right? So,
Okay.
but anyways, to answer your question about the cold one, what I found the best that has worked is that uh, two kind of a two-pronged approach. Number one is you need to be a bit more vocal on your social media, namely LinkedIn. And when I started posting a lot more on LinkedIn, VCs organically came to me. Actually, they look at my profile, they reach out to me, they ask me what I'm up to, that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you're posting, if you're talking about interesting things and people are liking your comments and they're interested in what you're building, you're not building 100% secret. You're kind of like maybe 5% is what you're exposing, like, oh, this is what a silicon like a VR on a silicon looks like, on a chip looks like, right? This kind of stuff, you're educating people, people are watching and reading. The VCs pay attention to that. And so when you do cold outreach, they will see who did it. They will see who how many connections you have and what you talk about and how many people are interested in you, and then they'll be interested in you, right? So that's a good way to build rapport before you have like a contact to do so, and that's
Okay.
worked very well
Okay.
with me. So building a good
Okay. Good.
online presence, you need to be your brand, right? That's
Right.
one. And the other thing is you can just reach out as you have done, right? But I think the way that you do it has to be very culturally fitting as well as appropriate. So, for example, I'm going to type it up here. Uh, Tim Ferriss. Do you know Tim Ferriss, the
I
author?
have heard him. I have
Okay.
heard him.
Search up Tim
Uh,
Ferriss cold outreach, cold email template. Okay. His cold
okay.
email template works very well for the Western world, for our investors here. For example, I emailed
Okay.
Mark Cuban. about a year ago about my basketball robot, and he responded, and I have a good chat with him, 3 or 4 email thread, and he gave me great advice, right? And he doesn't have time, but
Okay.
he because I use the technique that Tim Ferriss taught about. Okay. So
Okay.
I hope those two things help, and then of course I have some specific feedback for you on your slides, which we will talk about later in a separate thing. But otherwise, like, I think these are the right things. You just got to keep trying, build an online presence, get warm outreach is better. I would list. Do you have a list, by the way? Like what I do is my VCs. I have an Excel sheet and I call them ABC tier. I'm guessing you do that already. Um,
Already we are.
yeah. So then when whatever is A tier, don't do cold outreach. My advice, because you want them, right? You want them to convert, right? So I would say try and find a way to them, see their contacts, see who's connected through your contacts, and try and get that warm kind of connection, or else it's you don't want to lose those people, you know. And you don't want to keep annoying them with messages. But again, actually, it's not a problem to annoy them. I would not give up in one email. I'd give up in maybe 10 emails later until they scream at you, right? So just don't stop. So, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this advice is really helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Good. I mean, like,
yeah.
let me send me a cold email that you're thinking of. Like, give me a template of one example from what you learned from Tim Ferriss for the Western audience, and I'll give you feedback. Okay. Cool. And actually,
Okay.
put it on the group. Like, send it on the group. We can all give feedback. We can all learn from it too, right? So
All
say
right.
for you
All
don't
right.
need to give the details of what you're going to be building, but like give us a high level. My name is this. Whatever you learn from that cold email template. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Sohan, do we have anything else? I'll do a couple there, and then I'm going to let Shabazz ask me the final question. When we have about 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yes, for sure. So the first question we had is from UV Sohit, and the question was, if there are any chances of copying our idea by others, and if so, what should we do for this, sir? So yeah.
So everyone asks the same thing all the time. It's a very common question. What if someone copies my idea? And I often tell them, honestly, bro, most people have the same idea, or your idea is actually pretty crap, or no one knows who you are. So why would they give a crap to copy your idea? Right? Like it's not it's not you should not worry about ideas being stolen, because most people on earth will not go and have the guts or even have the ability to copy your idea. If you're worried about copying, if you go to Google and you tell, like, what's his name, the CEO, what's his name again, why is it slipped my mind? um
Sundar
Sundar, yeah.
Pichai.
If you go to Sundar and you're like, Sundar, this is a great idea, I'm going to make it, and he's like, I think it's a great idea too, I'm going to make it, then you're in trouble, right? But I don't think you have that problem. But anyways, but practically speaking, how do you protect an idea as a startup? Of course, there are ways to do it. You can patent. Usually, software patenting does not work and does not help, and you're going to waste a lot of money. Hardware patenting, if you do a utility patent, it can help, but it's a very specific execution of that hardware that you're patenting. And you're going to use so much money to make the patent, to secure it. And then if you need to go and sue someone, you're going to spend that much money again. So then there's no point, in my opinion, at that point too. Design patent is a lot cheaper, but again, someone can just change a little bit of the design, and then they can say it's not the same, and then you lose that money patenting it. Patenting is usually just a brand building thing, in my opinion, today, unless you are trying to sell your company after some time and you have a lot of IP and you have a lot of different things and you've been building your company for a long time, and you have a brand that is linked to some of those patents and some of those inventions that you made, and you want to sell the company because you want to make sure that's a very high value and you want to have that patent be sold with it. Or it's a patent for a product and that product is really, really good, and like a lot of people are using it, but you want to license it and you want to use those people demonstrating it. For example, let's just say that I invented this crazy lens system that can magnify and not distort the images on the outside. So when I'm wearing a VR headset, I can use a much smaller display, and this new kind of lens is really great. But I cannot build an entire VR headset, right? As this startup, but I can build the lens, and I design the lens, and I prototype it, and I give it to Apple, and I'm like, look, this lens is really nice. it will fix all your problems. It will make the display, you can make the display bigger, you have a bigger field of view, and you have less distortion on the edges. And Apple's like, wow, this is great. Let's license it from you. That's because, and that you've protected it. It's great IP, and you want Apple to buy you or buy the IP from you. That's when you can patent it. It's very powerful. So that's kind of my thoughts there. And then next is go build the idea at the end of the day. Just go build a brand, and build a brand. That's much more important, because at the end of the day, Nike makes shoes, and they had this carbon fiber plate on the inside for one of their like marathon running shoes, right? And then all of a sudden, all the other companies start coming out with slight variations. They'll have like a, instead of carbon fiber, they would maybe make a fiberglass one. They might make a steel one or an aluminum one. They might make a carbon fiber one with a different kind of array or different shape. And all of a sudden, Nike cannot have that plate patent anymore. And all the companies have these plate shoes, and they're beating Nike. Their market share is getting bigger now because they're innovating more based on the Nike idea of putting a plate inside. But people who love Nike will still buy Nike. Doesn't matter, because they built the brand, right? So the idea is like, if you're building a big product company, if build a brand, and if you're building kind of a B2B solution, make sure that you also solve the problem first. Don't worry about the competition. No one's going to come after you. No one's going to be able to do it better than you. You know what you're doing. And then if you're going to sell to a big business like Apple eventually, then you can consider patenting it, but get some money first. Make sure that you're earning money. Don't use your own money to do it. I don't think it's a good idea. I've never done it myself, because unless I want to brand it, which is also good. Okay. We have 9 minutes left. Actually, I didn't even notice the time on the Zoom. Is there another shorter question, Sohan? Because I want to get Shabaz's one.
They're not short question. They're more broad questions. So I think like I just have one question that I can ask. It's asked by Kola. Is again, this is a broad question, so I think maybe a short time one answer could help here. So the question is as you know, Kola is actually building a podcast. So his question is how much time should he dedicate to research, considering his idea is not a tangible product? Because doing research on the product could feel like it may some time.
I would say like there are two ways to build businesses and ideas. One is you plan out everything and then you execute after the plan. That's more of the European Eastern kind of way, and it works. It works some ways, sometimes. Then there's also the Western way, which is like the American way, which is you go and you try a whole bunch of stuff and see what works. So my advice would be, I've tried both, and what has worked for me the most and what has made me grow as a person is I tried as much as possible and as many things as possible, and failed as many times as I could, and learned from each failure. I'm going to say it more practically. Let's just say that I launched a clothing brand. Okay, I did launch a clothing brand, and I learned about the importance of like the pricing. What happened at the time was the price that I had was too low. And so what I couldn't do is I couldn't be profitable, because my return on ad spend would not be enough to be able to make me a profitable brand. I thought that if I buy my shirts for $20 and then I sell it for $25, that $5 markup was enough for me to, earn an income and all that. But in the end of the day, the markup needs to include the price of the product, of the cost of goods sold. It has to include the shipping cost and also the customer acquisition cost. And that's something that people don't really realize. The customer acquisition cost can be really, really high today. And that's basically how much does it cost for a customer to see the advertisement, then to go to your website and to go click add to cart, then click buy. That whole pipeline can be very expensive and can be really detrimental to building a business. And so I learned all that stuff by failing this one product, you see? So my advice to people is to try and fail fast, fail what you can, and try first and see what works, and accept that it's going to be crappy at the beginning. So a podcast, if you're ever going to do a podcast, and for example, Harshvadan, you want to make some LinkedIn posts, just accept that it's going to be crap for the first 10, 20. Don't put too much emphasis on yourself there. Don't put too much, like, don't feel bad about it. Just do it, do the 10, and then each time you do one, make it a little better. See, okay, this hashtag worked better, or this post worked better, this kind of image worked better, right? this time that I posted got more people to click on it and view it and all this stuff, right? So see what little tweaks you do every single time, and then you'll get better. Just like you do in engineering, right? You do a prototype, you fix a prototype, you fix one small thing at a time. Everything in business, anything in life is like that. You kind of iterate on those small steps. So for Cola, it's like that too. Just start, just screw up. It does not matter. Don't hold yourself too high. You're not going to have the final polished product yet. All right. And Shabazz, can you say your question again so I can address it before the time runs up? Yeah, great question about that. And I think it comes back to even before what I said, you got to stand out somehow. Somehow you got to be like, make them go like, wow, this is this guy. Really? He did that. And so for Apple, that's how I did it. A couple things. One is I did, I think, 15 projects in my undergrad. I worked probably one of the hardest of everyone. My marks were very bad. I had some of the lowest marks in my class, but I passed. But I did all the projects. I built so many things. I built this robotic hand that moves like this when you move your fingers. So and it uses the muscles. So it can sense the muscles. And when I move my fingers like this, the robotic hand moves its fingers. I built a blimp out of helium, and it's like a drone blimp, so it can autonomously move in a field in an area, right? There are so many things that I built, and I won many awards. So when I applied to Apple, naturally they see this big portfolio of like all of these different projects that I did and all of the awards that I won. And I stand out because everyone else that's applying to the job has a generic looking resume, a generic looking application, no side projects, no online presence, nothing. They're just like, Apple's going to like me because I did this, and this. And sometimes they get lucky, right? But I have one. If you guys, I think, have access to the classroom, go take a look at the resume that got me Apple. You'll see that my resume is not something special, and I didn't have any referral, nothing. But I'm going to do another post soon about the portfolio that made me get Apple, right? And that portfolio is what stood out, and that everyone kept talking about that, like, oh, this portfolio is really cool. You did these projects, this is really cool. And even now, when I talk to investors, you know why they're interested? They'll be like, oh, you worked on the Vision Pro. Oh, you have 50 patents. Oh, you went to Dubai and you rode a sports Dubai police McLaren. How the heck did you do that? Why did the Dubai police let you do that? So I have stories, and I'm an interesting, like I try to be an interesting person, and I try to be someone that's just not like oh, I'm just an engineer. Because anyone can be an engineer, but no one can be you. And you need to prove to them, again, going to Harshvadan as well, same thing, right? How do you stand out to them that you're a personable person? You're someone that they would want to work with. They want to give you the money. They can trust you. And I think this is the theme of this whole conversation is how to be someone that is unique in the world, because you are unique. And everyone else, there's so many people in your graduating class, so many people in your same job that are doing the same thing. But what makes you different that lets them be like, wow, I want to invest in this guy? And that means invest my time, invest in giving them a job, invest in giving them money so they can build a business, invest my time with them so that I know that I'm going to succeed, and we're all going to succeed together, right? So think about that, how you're going to stand out and do something that is worth them being like, wow, let's talk to this person. It's hard, but you can do it. And it's going to take that effort, and it's going to take guts. You got to just try. You got to put yourself out there. So make those posts, try those projects that'll fail. Most of my projects failed, even in undergrad. Most of them didn't work, and then some of them did. And then the ones that did work, they got me Apple, right? So yeah, that's that. Yeah, I'm gonna answer because I want to answer you, because we have 1 minute left, and I want to give you the answer, which is all of us are going to fail, as you said, and all of us is gonna suck. And Sohan is the only one here, and out of many people, that knows how hard my life is from time to time. But all I can say is that the man that you want to be 20 years from now, he's gonna look back and be like, come on, just keep going. That Lamborghini that you hope you have, or maybe just the house, or maybe just the family that you want to have, right? That person in the future is looking back at you and telling you, keep going. It's hard right now, but look what you got. Look where you got to. That's all I can say is that. And also the other thing is, what's the point of giving up anyway? You can give up. Anyone can give up. But once you give up, you're done. what are you going to do? Just go like go into a ditch and go lay down and cry or something? Like, it's going to be hard anyway, and it's going to suck anyway. So might as well just go through it, because there's nothing else you can do. You have to live your life. So do it and live a life and do something that's worthwhile living.